Hi everybody, looks like we're live. We'll wait for a few of you guys to jump on here with us. If you can hear us, if you can just let us know that the sound is working, that would be super. For anybody that's new, welcome. My name's Lindsay. This is Jess. We're here every Tuesday night at 7:30 answering questions that are sent in by you guys. The question that we had sent in, this one was sent in actually a little while ago, was all about English versus Western riders. And what happened was we actually shared a post about, I'm trying to remember what rider it was. Hi guys. Oh, awesome. Looks like a bunch of you are on live. If anybody remembers the post, maybe you remember who was riding. Was it Nick Dowers? Okay. So it was Nick Dowers riding, and he's turning a cow back down the fence, and he was in a snaffle bit, right? He was two-handed, and at the snaffle bit fraternity. And the person who shared the post wrote quite a lengthy post all about how soft his hands were, especially considering the level of difficulty of the maneuver. And the post kind of continued to call out English riders for using double bridles and having so much contact on their horses, and for crediting themselves, specifically the dressage community, I think, for crediting themselves for having such soft hands compared to other disciplines and other types of riders. And basically this person was saying that, I'm sorry, but there is no higher level of difficulty than what is happening in this picture with Nick Dowers, and look at how soft his hands are. So we had loads and loads of comments come back after we posted that, and we wanted to include it as one of our live topics. So I think there's a few things we need to talk about. One is how many people actually watching have experience riding English horses and Western horses, and maybe even go a little bit further and say what kind. So if you've ridden English horses before and now you ride reiners, or if you grew up taking English lessons and now you ride, you work cows or whatever, if you could share that with us, that would be super. And then we'll chat just a little bit about, I guess, our thoughts, but we're looking for your thoughts. We're looking for, we're looking for that back and forth and what you guys think about this. I always think it's interesting to talk about some of these topics. It's more like this question was almost more like a topic of discussion than it was a question to help you guys specifically with anything in your riding. So definitely would love to hear your perspective on that. Do you want to start? So while you were just riding, I posted a picture of Charlie, and I said he wants to meet Charlie tonight, and a few people want to meet Charlie tonight. So we have to introduce Charlie. Should we do that before we get into the topic? The dog? Yeah.
He's like pooping on something.
Some people do Facebook Lives and they have like really expert, knowledgeable guests come on.
We have our dog.
We're having our rescue dog.
He's a dog.
Charlie!
Refuse to call him a rescue dog.
You don't want to call him a rescue dog?
Nope, he's just a dog.
Why? Because we didn't rescue him?
No, because I don't like the term rescue dog.
Why?
They're a dog.
Come here, buddy. Well, he's from a rescue,
and he doesn't want to be in public, apparently.
He's going to be in public.
Now, she is not picking up a puppy here. Let's just put that
there we go. Just like Sophie used to sit on my lap. Say
not
hi, Charlie.
Exactly a puppy.
Not a puppy. 1-year-old rescue. Just apparently we're not calling it a rescue dog, but he's literally from a rescue. Actually from SCAR, Second Chance. What is it? Second Chance Animal something rescue with another shelter in Texas. And before that, he was in another animal control center where he had been there for the maximum amount of time. So he was going to be euthanized. So we're happy to have him, happy to introduce him to you guys. He's learning the barn rules, and he's great with the kids. And apparently he likes sitting on my lap. Okay, get down, buddy. That's Charlie. Okay. So if everybody can share whether they have experience with English horses and Western horses, that would be super. What is your experience with English and Western horses?
The horses? Good ones are soft, bad ones are not. There's
No,
good
as far
ones in
as-
both disciplines.
As far as your experience as a rider in the English discipline,
I think no matter what discipline, even English Western, but even like cow horses to pleasure horses to team penners to barrel racers, eventers and jumpers and hunters, whatever. If they want to be better and they want to be good, they will learn to be effective with their hands. I've seen bad in every single discipline, and I've seen very good in every discipline. It's a matter of what level they want to achieve and how good they want to be at it. And I think every time I hear people talk about, like an English person saying, oh, they just ride Western, or an English or a Western person saying, oh, you know, they double bridle their horses, whatever. It's a lack of knowledge of what the other ones do. And just because somebody went down to the horse show and, you know, let's say they're used to showing at a certain level, they go over and watch a club show, or they will go over and watch an event, but they catch the wrong 10 riders in the pen, is not a good representation of the best of the best. And I think anytime we get bashing on other disciplines, it's just a lack of knowledge of what the other disciplines do.
okay.
What's your opinion?
Well, you went kind of deep right off the bat. What I meant was like, have you ridden English horses?
Oh.
I mean, everybody else understood, and they're writing in, but
Yes.
do you want me to say it again?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I have ridden. I mean, when I worked for Peter, I mean, he had the jumping horses and the dressage horses, and I've started colts for, I think, just about every discipline likely there is. Mm-hmm. And there's not one discipline that's easier than the others. So there's not one that's easier on your hands and how to work them. If you want to be good, you got to be good. And that's the end result of it. Not one's easier or harder to learn. Not one's easier or harder to ride. It's just the amount that you want to be good at it. What about you? What disciplines have you rode?
Okay. Yes, I have not ridden very many jumpers. I have done some jumping. And I went to Meredith Manor, where the whole program is based on classical dressage, and I took 1/4 of just dressage, where I rode some mostly lower level dressage horses, but I had a few lessons where I got to ride some upper level dressage horses and try some, you know, piaffe, passage, pirouette, that kind of stuff. Not a ton. I wouldn't say I've had day-to-day experience riding like eventers, and, you know, I haven't had a lot of experience riding those. I've had probably the most experience teaching people coming over to Western from English. Way more experience, you know, many hours of teaching people coming over from English to Western. And then obviously I ride Rainers now. Not for the last week or so, because it's been cold, but and I agree with you. I mean, one of the really interesting things about being at Meredith Manor was that when you go, everybody's sort of on a level playing field, no matter where you come in at with your riding ability or your horse or what level you've shown or anything like that. Everybody is kind of humbled or brought onto a level playing field, because everybody starts in a lunge line class, which is where you're literally on the lunge line. You lunge your partner for half the lesson, and you are being lunged for the other half of the lesson, and all you're doing are equitation exercises and developing your feel, your balance, your flexibility, your strength, your ability to influence the horse. And it doesn't matter whether you're in an English saddle or a Western saddle. And then as you move through the program and you get off of the lunge line, you also, there's no, it becomes very apparent that there are strong riders within each discipline, and there are riders who get along with certain horses, and it doesn't matter what discipline they're in. I think it was a really, really interesting thing to see at Meredith Manor, because we were all, like I said, we were all on a level playing field. We all rode the same horses, you know, just to keep it fresh for the horses. Even the dressage horses would come over, not the upper level ones, and just the same as the upper level reiners wouldn't go over to the dressage side. But for the most part, the horses would go back and forth, and you got to see what riders shone, no matter what saddle they were in or what rider or what horse they were riding. So to me, it doesn't matter. As far as hands go, I think English riders, as the teaching goes and the levels go and just the culture, there's a lot more discussion about having soft hands. There's a lot more visuals and books written and diagrams and like even imagery and stuff that we see online that's being shared. There's a lot more of that type of discussion, a lot of focus on riders having soft hands than there is influence of that on the Western side. But I don't think that means that English riders have softer hands. I think it just means that it's approached in a different way. Typically it's approached in a different way with Western riders, where they're using their hands or using their reins for a specific purpose to get a specific response from the horse. And it's the influence is more on, are you getting the response from the horse, than are you developing soft hands? It's just the wording is different. The ways the riders have to be soft can be different too, but I think for the most part, it's just like you said, it's good riders. You know, a good rider is a good rider, or a well-coached rider is a well-coached rider. Should we see what everybody else is saying? Or do you want to spew some brilliance? Are you brewing something up?
I'm going to play with Charlie if you're going to be mean to me.
I'm not being mean to you.
I was just going to talk about the bits too.
Oh, here we go. I knew there was a tangent brewing. Go ahead.
You're mean to me.
Go ahead.
The lack of understanding from other disciplines, where like a double bridle or nose bands in the English world, ported bits in the Western world, used properly, everything's a good deal. And you can flop those back and forth in the disciplines, and that's something we see more now than we ever did, where, like as a teenager, a German martingale maybe wasn't a very traditional Western bit of attire.
Really?
And then that became way more popular and it came over. And the same with, like, you never seen gag bits on the jumping horses. You know, that was all kind of in the barrel horses, but they realized there was a benefit to those moving around. And that's something we see now when people look at a lot of those bits, and they're usually, if they're going to bark about it and they're going to complain about it, they're usually an uneducated horse person to understand how that bit works in a certain horse. And I think that's such a big part of it, is understanding how it's to be used. And not that it's always used right in every discipline, and that's an unfortunate part, but if it's used properly, all those tools, all the hands, all the mechanical aids we use, the way we use our bodies, there's a purpose. If you're clear in the execution of how you present that to your horse, they will go yes sir, and they'll work. And it's just so important that they understand what we want, and then we can refine them from there. There's no discipline that hasn't been in trouble. Like this summer we had the pentathlon. You know, I mean, we've seen videos of, I've seen every discipline at the World Equestrian Games where somebody is just in a really bad position, and it's horrible. Reiners included, and we're not going to knock out the reiners. I mean, we ride the reiners. And I've seen some pictures where you think, how on earth did that happen? If you're going to compete at a high level, you're going to get a bad picture. And I think nowadays it's so much on the internet because once that picture gets out there, everybody shares it a million times. And then they all sit there and go, oh, did you see that pentathlon? Or did you see that Rainer? Or did you see that jumper? Or whatever. So everybody is real quick.
That's a representation of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of, what was it, 10 seconds of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think the problem really arises is in barns where if they're all one discipline, they get bashing on other disciplines to make them feel better. You know, they feel like they're the superior discipline. I don't care what you ride. There's no superior discipline. You're either good or you're not, and that's just the end result of it. It's hard to ride, you know, every discipline if you want to be great at it, and you got to learn.
I want to throw this out. Have you've done upper level dressage movements?
I've done them. I ain't good at them.
Piaffe, passage, pirouette.
Sometimes even on purpose.
You've run a cow down the wall and turned it back. Which one is harder to keep your hands soft?
Neither.
Neither
If
one
you're
is
doing
harder.
it at an extreme level, there is no discipline that is easier or harder if it's at an extreme. You want your horse to give you every ounce of his muscles and be in a position to be in the right spot and the right timing. I mean, I haven't rode a good dressage horse. Well, I haven't lived with Peter for years, and I am not going to claim to anybody that I know how to ride dressage horses. I rode his horses. You know, we got him doing stuff. He could ride them, but I don't think there's one that's harder to do. The problem with the cow work, is that the cow dictates sometimes that you need to go faster, you need to go slow. As we're on a dressage horse or even a reiner, whatever, we can pick the speed that we are comfortable with. And in the cow work, sometimes because you have that third brain there, sometimes that cow's brain kind of takes over. The horse knows its job and it gets a little ahead. But I don't think there's one discipline that is easier. To have a good seat, to have good legs, to have good posture, you know, and everything. I think if you're going to take it to the extreme, you are going to, your horse is going to do some
Do you think one is
extreme.
harder right off the bat, like for somebody to learn? One's harder than the other?
And that's a feel thing. And a big Englishy horse, it's easier to feel their legs because they have such a big stride and you can feel them put it down a little more. But that's the hardest part to teach people is where to put, like, where are those horses' legs going? And once you have that, it sounds funny. I always think it, but it was always explained to me. Once you feel that, you can make your horse do anything you want, so
Yeah.
who cares? You know, it's just a matter of once you can feel where that horse is. If you can ride a spin on a reiner and ride it where you are helping the horse, not just sit it, you are actually helping the horse. In a lesson, you could figure out how to lift that thing off the ground and make them lope around
To make it into a pirouette.
to make them do that. And the same holds true. Not just you can ride it though. That's the thing. Is can you feel where those horses' legs are?
Yeah.
And if you're helping the horse, you can help him in a thing. You'd have to be explained the technical part of it. But once you're at that point where you can feel legs, pick an event. If you stick with it, you'll be able to do it.
Okay, let's see what everybody is saying just a little bit. Whoa. Lacey's saying, I grew up riding Western ponies, then barrel horses, then reiners. I took English lessons to become a better rider, but I think I may have just been riding Western in an English saddle. Yeah, that's a thing that was really
On both
popular a
ways.
while ago, was like take English to become a better rider, even if you like Western better. It was like Western was a cutesy hobby thing to do, but you took English lessons to really become a rider. That is interesting. Hi, Charlie. Charlie is a fan club. Brianne wrote English most of my life and switched to Western in 2019. Woo! With us. Marie wrote English for years and now I ride Western. I've witnessed good and bad in both. Yeah. Chuck and Shirley, I rode both disciplines plus cutters. Feel is most important. Let the horse have his face.
So I think there's a good point, though, in a discipline. And I actually had a conversation with a friend of ours on this just the other day. Even between some of the Western events, like you take the cow horses, the reiners, and the cutters, where there's a lot of similar breeding, there's a different way of riding each of those three. A lot of it crosses over, but there's a very distinct thing. When you ride a cutter, you're riding them all with your feet, you're riding all with your leg, and you don't touch their face. And that horse gets into a little trouble when he has to be handled or put into other disciplines and whatever. And then you take a reiner, and I was actually picking on one of my own horses today, where it has a lot of cow bred into it, but we have rode it strictly as a reiner. I have never let this thing look at a cow. It's a 5-year-old now. I've had it since a 2-year-old, and we started putting on the flag, and it doesn't even look at this thing. I have told it not to think as a cow horse, and it doesn't. Is any of those three disciplines, and I have a lot of respect for all three, cutters, reiners, cow horses, the ranch rider, everything of those things, but they're different. And the one thing that always concerns me is when you're sitting at a reining show and they talk about the cutters ain't broke. You sit at a cutter around the cutting, oh, them dang reiners are doing this. It's just different. And I think that's such a big thing when we talk about how we discuss this. It's hard to ride with just your feet. It's hard to ride with just your body. It's hard to ride a horse and keep him bridled up to be a reiner. Mm-hmm. All those disciplines are hard.
It's all hard.
And it's easy to bash. And one thing that I always think of in the back of my mind is how it's perceived from the public if we, as horse people,
are bashing on each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
And one thing we have to look at, and this is a whole other topic and a big topic, is like, everybody talks about like the abuse, bad hands, oh, it's bad for this, it looks bad. If we don't all get together and agree on stuff, we have things like PETA trying to shut down horse shows. We have organizations all across North America, not just North America, all across the world, and they're getting places to stop having horse shows. It's happening. And if we can't agree and get along and come up with organizations that can counteract, not just PETA, there's a few others, but to take on that kind of stuff, we all have to get along as a group and appreciate other disciplines. One thing we did many years ago, God, this would be 20 years ago, we used to give reining demonstrations at the Royal. And one of the coolest things, and I wish I could remember a couple of these guys' names, but late at night there used to be this little ring off to the side that us could use. Nobody could watch, nobody could go in there. It was off to the public, we were just allowed to use it. And we'd get in there and we'd all swap horses. And I remember one night we were in there, I'm riding a Rocky Mountain pony. It was the funnest thing. It was so out of my element, I didn't even know what to do. And the guy got on a reiner, and he'd rode reiners before, so he could kind of play. But we sat there and talked about bits and how we train them and how we school them and how we ride them. And that was one of the most fun couple nights every year I looked forward to. It was so much fun because we had not every discipline, but we had a lot of different disciplines. There was guys with Arabs in there. There was guys with Hackneys. You name it, they were in there. And we weren't at a show. Nobody cared. We just sat down and talked about, well, how do you get a horse softer in this bit, or how does this work? And we would swap horses and ride each other's horses at night. And that was so much fun. And I think for me, when I went to work for the Dutchman, who did multiple disciplines well, that was a big eye opener for me that, you know what, there is something to be said for, riding one in a double break snaffle, or, or bringing into a Western horse a bit that maybe wasn't used, or maybe even putting some of them jumping horses that would come into us for rehabbing every once in a while. We'd put a chin strap on those things with a curb bit and kind of get them into there a little bit. And it was amazing how being open-minded and trying different styles, really helped out. And we see it in the show horse world where, there was some guys come into the reining, ones that kind of stick into my mind is like Todd Summers came in from the Western pleasure world, and he brought a whole different style of horse and a style of riding where he was very, I was going to say pretty rider. That doesn't really, correct rider, and very disciplined in how he sat and how he moved his horses. And that kind of changed the bar a little bit. And then we saw other disciplines come in and everybody brought a little bit to the table. And I think that's so important that instead of, sitting at a Western barn bashing an English one or vice versa, and I've heard both sides of it, maybe we should just look at the other horses and say that's cool.
Carolyn O'Neill thinks you broke her English horse.
I have started the odd English horse over the years.
Delena's saying there are good teachers and poor teachers, good riders, and those getting there. Yeah.
And there's good horses and bad horses too.
They all start the same. There's some interesting ones. Gail's saying she's ridden both English and Western and been around very good in both. I think people generally like what we like about our own discipline and dislike what we dislike about other disciplines. Yeah.
And every single discipline I have ever been involved with, I have had both sides of that where there's lots that I like and some that I don't.
Tara is saying, hi Tara, thank you. Such a wonderful balanced point of view. If you want to be good, you need to be good. Understanding the discipline is important. I grew up riding eventers, then dressage, and now reining. They all have added to my skill set and understanding. Yeah, that's really cool. Carolyn, I've ridden the same horse in the jumping ring and in the same day changed saddle and my clothes and did the cattle. It's cool. There's some good comments in here. Lots of other variables. Lisa, you saw the puppy. Each is hard and each is valid. Support each other. No, so Lacey's saying non-horse people don't know the difference between disciplines, so they will just hear that riding horses is abusive. Yeah. I get lots of my friends who don't know anything about horses asking me about racing. Anytime there's a horse race, everybody's saying, does it hurt the horses when they whip them? Can't imagine what they think when they see some of the other stuff, if they even see it.
Because unfortunately, that's what they see on TV so much.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff, as horse people, we really need to, like even as a performance horses or the Western performance horses that we have, we can't ignore what's being said about the racehorse industry, because if they shut down racing, guess where they're coming to next?
Josie, I'm in a barn where I'm the only Western rider. Ooh. And I had a conversation with another rider, an eventer, and we were both interested in each other's discipline, and we were both trying to achieve the same thing. Supple, fit, broke horse, although we may have different training methods to go about it. Yeah, that's cool.
And oddly
That's
enough,
cool when you can get along.
oh, swap horses, it's a lot of fun. That deal at the Royal years ago was some of the most fun. I think the other thing to really realize is that there is, if you take away the fancy wording in either discipline, and we use a lot of slang in the reiners, the basic is the same. Get the horse to want to do his job, say yes sir, say yes ma'am, and get them trained to where they want to do that job. And the basics are so similar. Or not the basics, everything is so similar. You know, they go left, they go right, they go forward, and they say yes sir, and they have to go.
You're reading another one?
I can't read. I can't see
I
it.
took my fancy Hunter English pony cattle sorting just to bomb-proof it more before the Royal. It was afraid of the spotted garbage cans and not the cows. Oh, that's funny.
Actually, you know what? When you asked me which the hardest one is,
Yeah.
I think Lacey made a good point.
Yeah.
Riding ponies. That's the hardest
Riding
one.
ponies?
They just make you full of rage. I mean, that's...
That's the hardest one to have soft hands.
Yeah. Of all the disciplines, you can...
How about riding when it's minus 20? That's the hardest to have soft hands.
Well, you can't have hard hands because all I did today was go, oh, it's cold. Oh, it's cold. Oh, it's cold.
Yeah.
It was a
Okay.
cold day.
Speaking of cold, we're gonna sign off here, you guys. Thanks
What do
for
you
joining
think's the
us.
hardest discipline? You didn't answer your own
What
questions.
do I think? Well, I mean, now I'm gonna sound like a dink after what you said, which was like so thoughtful and positive. I think I like.
Who are you gonna
I'm
bash
sorry,
on?
but I think it's harder to turn a cow on the fence than it is to ride a pirouette or a passage or a piaffe. I think it's harder. Like you said, there's 3 brains. You're working at speed. There's so many variables. You have. I think that's harder.
90% of the time, there's not 3 brains, though, when you turn a cow, because usually the person's
Somebody
brain
loses a
shuts
brain.
off.
Somebody's brain goes out the window. I think working cows is harder to do at the highest level. Now that could also be for me. I'm not a speed demon. I don't love the spontaneity of the cows. I probably personally would do better on an upper level dressage horse than I would a really upper level.
You just haven't done it enough. You
Cow
just come out
horse.
and do it.
Well,
Cows are in tonight. Let's do it.
I should do all of them more, but here we are. A couple of kids, a dog. There. Oh, I was gonna say I don't even need you anymore. My Facebook Live buddy.
I've
Okay.
been fired. That's it. This is my last time.
This was
See you
Jesse's
later.
last one. Good thing it was thoughtful and it was really positive, supporting all of the different disciplines. Now he's fired. The dog's taking over. Okay, thanks for being here with you guys. I added the link here if anybody is interested in joining Momentum and you have not done it yet. Tomorrow is the last day, and I know I haven't been on here very much to answer questions and things. We've been busy with online learning and the pup and all of the things that life throws at you. So if you have questions about Momentum, please let me know. I would be happy to answer them. We can jump on a call or I can send you some messages. I know a few people had asked for some sneak peeks, or if it's for them, I do have a sneak peek of the riding scale, which is what we use to break down the types of riders inside of Momentum. So if you're interested in seeing that to help you decide whether it's right for you, then I am happy to share that with you, or like I said, answer any questions to try to get you in before we close the doors, because once we close the doors, we do not let anybody in till next time.
Can I rant about the chaos challenge?
You're gonna rant about the challenge that I did.
Nobody wanted to be my buddy on it.
Did you ask? Did you copy and paste the thing and say,
I don't know how to copy
I am
and paste.
recommitting to blank. I need somebody to check with me on blank on this date.
I need somebody to check with
didn't-
me about
you
every
didn't
half hour
do
to
the
make sure I'm
work.
okay when it's this cold out.
Oh. Okay, we're signing off. Thanks for being here with us, you guys, and we will see you next week. Leave us your comments or questions, or if you have a suggestion for a topic or another question that you would like for us to answer, you can send that in to us. You can send it to me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send it to us at hazekofalph@gmail.com. You want to
Good
say
night.
bye-bye? Bye.
I thought you were still talking.